Hey, welcome to the Newer Planet. Listen, recently I've been feeling quite tired and I really wanted to escape into some fantasy worlds. So what I decided to do is to pick up a few fantasy series that I have not read yet and just give the first book a try. So today I will tell you about 3 of them. Let's start. The very first book that I picked up was The Assassin's Apprentice by Robb and Hobb, and it was quite a natural choice for me. I've been hearing about this book for years now, and I really wanted to finally introduce myself to this story. The main character, Fitz, is the person that we are following throughout the story. We see him first as a 6-year-old boy, and at the end of the book, we see him already being a teenager. We follow his life as a royal bastard who basically is hated by everyone, but needs to somehow survive and somehow be useful to the crown. And to be useful to the crown, he becomes an apprentice to an assassin. That's pretty much all I want to say for now about the plot itself. Let me now share what I thought about the book. In all honesty, first 70 pages felt quite boring for me, and I thought I would actually DNF this story. But I kept on reading and I ended up loving it. I have to be very honest with you. I think what put me off a little bit in the beginning was the writing style. I just did not expect the prose to be so descriptive, so flowery, so sophisticated. But at the end, the writing style is one of the reasons that I stayed with the story. I ended up falling in love with it. Honestly, I want to compare this book to a 1-hour-long YouTube essay or YouTube video in the world of shorts and reels. And I mean it as a compliment to the book itself. Now, what I think this book is famous for, and what I appreciated it for as well, is the character development. It's just immaculate. You see characters actually reacting to the stuff around them, to reflecting upon whatever is happening and actually changing in accordance with the environment and with changing circumstances. The characters just feel multidimensional, they feel real, and you can see a multitude of identities. The protagonist, Fitz, is the type of character, or let's say a type of person that does not belong anywhere. And he has to carry the burden of his own existence, even though he obviously did not choose to be born. Hobb, I think, perfectly describes the loneliness and exclusion of such a life. I never for a second thought that Fitz was whining or complaining somehow unjustifiably. He is a lonely child who then becomes quite a lonely teenager who has been abandoned and rejected by everybody and everything around him, basically. The only creatures who do not care for his birth or for the circumstances of his birth, or the only creatures who actually value and love to a certain degree Fitz are animals. And honestly, I think that this might be a reality for plenty of people in the real world, in our world, where people feel completely alienated from the rest and only find some kind of comfort and happiness and love with their pet companions happens. To me, Fitz choosing to continue living, to continue fighting, to continue trying to find his own place in the world, in the circumstances he has, is actually quite brave and human. And again, I think emphasizing that it's human is very important, because humans can also be frustrated and angry and can be ready to give up. And this is what we also see with Fitz. That's what makes him so real as well. He is very human. He has a multitude of emotions, and you feel like this person could have existed in real life. I want to continue reading this series, and I'm really curious about almost everything, honestly. I really want to know more about Fool, for example. He seems to predict the future. Maybe, I'm not sure. He also is quite supportive of Fitz, and I want to know why. I also want to know more about Fitz's mother and her heritage. I want to know more about Verity and Chade and Burge. I'm telling you about everyone, basically. I'm really curious about these characters to see a bit more of their story. I don't know if I'm gonna have that in other books or not, but I just hope I will have it. And also, I think I would like to know more about magic, and especially about wheat. I really want to know why it's so looked down upon. What's the reason behind it? I really hope that Rob and Hobb will tell us in the future books about it. Of course, this book is not perfect. Probably there is no any single book that is perfect out there. And the first thing that I felt was that the book was overall quite slow paced, which is fine, but at the end it quite rapidly sped up. And to me, such a change in pace felt a bit off. Second thing is I did not quite understand the reason of Gallant's training being so cruel and violent. If you read the book, you know what Gallant training I mean. But later, actually, I got this thought that maybe this training sort of reminds me of ballet training in Soviet space. Also quite harsh. Now my overall impression. In the beginning, I felt quite bored because of the slow pacing, because of our quite sophisticated language, and the story felt visibly uneventful. Okay, but as I kept on reading, it captivated me, and I found deep character work. I started really enjoying the writing style. I found magic very interesting and quite captivating as well. And last but not least, the intrigues worked for me. The tone of the book also worked for me. What did I take away from this book? And here I like to sometimes get a bit more philosophical. And the first thing I took from this book is that you do not choose your circumstances of birth, but you can influence what you do with the circumstances and with the resources that you have. That's the first thing. Second is going through hardships does not mean you have to project your pain onto others. On the contrary, withstanding hardships and yet remaining noble and true to yourself is the ultimate strength. Another question that I asked myself is, what do you believe the author's aim in writing this book was? And again, it's just my perception. Obviously, it's not at all truth carved in stone. It's literally just my perception based on my personal experience and my experience with reading, with stories and such. So I think she tried to show the development of a person who suffers, who is abandoned, who is rejected, but who does not give up on his life, who chooses to continue living, chooses to continue staying and helping his beloved ones, and chooses to stay true to one's values. I think in addition, Hobb really showed that not giving up and fighting for your place in the world does pay off at the end. I mean, I'm yet to read the other books in this series, so we shall see. Who can I recommend this to? So first, to someone who likes good prose, good writing style, good English, okay? Second, slow pace. If you like slow pace, I think you will enjoy this book. Third, to someone who likes deep character development and likes character-driven stories. And fifth, I think someone who does not mind chewing on glass and going through a lot of pain with the main character. If I could summarize this book in one sentence, I would say that this is a beautifully written, deep character work story about non-belonging in a fantasy setting. I told you that I decided to read a bunch of fantasy books, but I was kind of deceitful. My teammate actually gave me a sci-fi book to read, and in all honesty, sci-fi is not something I usually read. I mean, I never read it. That's it. I never read it. And I decided to give it a go. Why not? So, the three-body problem. The very first thing that I wrote in my reading journal was, it's page 115 and I'm still confused. And I think this is a very good explanation of this book. The book starts in 1967 and we start with the Cultural Revolution in China, which actually was interesting for two reasons. First of all, I just decided to read a bit more on Cultural Revolution in China afterwards. It's not the first book where the setting is the Cultural Revolution, but nonetheless, I digress. I'm actually curious if the depiction of all the violence and craziness, basically, of those times was anyhow a commentary by the author, or this is just a critique that is allowed. I heard different opinions on that, so I'm quite curious. But nonetheless, we start during Cultural Revolution in 1967 with a young woman, let's say. In a few chapters, we jump to a different timeline. It's 4 decades later, and we see a nanotech engineer. I'm deliberately not trying to pronounce Chinese names right now, just not to embarrass myself with the pronunciation. So I'm just gonna say nanotech engineer, okay? And he is being involved basically with the investigation of a group of scientists which has experienced a lot of unaliving themselves, yeah. This will lead our nanotech engineer to an online game that will start helping us uncovering what exactly is going on in this world. Look, the good thing about this book is that it actually made me search for a lot of things in physics especially. For example, there was a term, cosmic microwave background radiation, and in all honesty I had no idea what it was, so I checked it out. I just spent quite a few hours at the end trying to make sense of different things that are related to this phenomena, and so on and so forth. So I actually think that's a very good thing when a book teaches you something, so I was glad for that. Thank you very much. I want to learn more about physics. I need to really return to my materials, maybe from school and such. But nonetheless, what I didn't like so much is the characters. The characters are just not well developed. Maybe except for one guy, there is some hope for Da Shi, I think is his name. The rest, however, do not really have any personality, honestly. And also what was weird for me is that this nanotech engineer, he has a wife and a kid, of whom we learn in the very beginning. And then he just like forgets about their existence. We all forget about their existence, and it's like they don't care that he does not appear at home, that he spends nights God knows where. Maybe it is something of a family dynamic that was kind of okay in the circumstances that we see in the, let's say, country where we see this happening, but I'm not sure. I think it was just not well thought through. In addition, what didn't work for me was the motives of plenty of characters, especially some arguments that ETO was giving us. To me, they just didn't feel like enough. Don't you want to have a bit of a stronger motivation to just kill the whole civilization? I don't know. Once again, I was really not that convinced in some cases when characters presented their arguments or their motives for the actions. Nonetheless, there were few things that I personally appreciated. I found that there were quite a few powerful passages and messages about the environment. Actually, I like that the author noticed how people tend to place themselves basically in everything, be it religion or environmental discussion. And on the top, I think there is one important scene, and I don't want to spoil anything. I will say it in a way that only people who've read the book would actually understand me. The listener, when he imagines our Earth, right, as a whole, he describes it so beautifully. My heart honestly ached, and I thought, damn, we really do not appreciate our home. We really do not appreciate our Earth enough. I wouldn't say that the environmental commentary is the main theme in this book, but I really appreciated that here and there we saw some glimpses of discussion on it. Another thing that I've noticed is that at some point we have a short discussion about the meaning of life, and not just in general, what is life, what is the meaning, but more like, what is the meaning of life in the authoritarian regime? What is the meaning of life which does not have arts or any enjoyment? What is the meaning of life if you are in a state of constant survival and your value and your life, once again, is measured by how much labor you can provide? Lastly, what I noticed is that I think the author kind of notes that humans would worship anything. And in their worship, they really create this sense of superiority around the group of the worshippers. And they feel maybe not responsible, but superior. Let's say superior once again, just because I can't find a better word right now. And they feel superior in choosing the fate of the whole world, of all the other people and peoples of the whole civilization. Now, when I want to talk about my overall impression, I'm confused. I am confused. On the one hand, I want to know what happens next. I'm curious. And actually, what I didn't mention is that my dear teammate actually already gave me the other two books. So I have them at home in case I actually want to read them already. So I mean, it's right there. I don't know if I should continue. On the other hand, I was sometimes bored. I was sometimes a bit like underwhelmed by the writing, and I felt like the storytelling was occasionally unimpressive and, again, confusing. What did I take away from this book? The very first thought that was just reinforced in my brain is that we really need to appreciate the Earth more and take better care of the environment, thinking a bit more long-term rather than short-term. And second is that we really need to, just as humans, as different nations, we need to make sure that we treat each other better and we are friendlier to each other, instead of looking out in space, for example, and hoping that someone out there will save us somehow. We need to save our humanity ourselves. Honestly, on that note, actually, I want to mention that at the end of this edition, at least, the author has a beautiful passage about us thinking that whoever is out there in the space is always friendly and is guided by moral code and somehow will want the best for us, and we are ready to be friendly with them and communicate with them, but not with each other. He mentions that humans would go across the board and just, kill all the people out there, but somehow be more kind and more patient towards unknown beings in the space. And he just mentions that maybe instead we should redirect this energy towards each other, towards humans. It was quite a good paragraph. I hope this note or this afterward is actually in all the English editions that I'm not sure about. Now, who would I recommend this book to? And I think you should be interested in sci-fi or fantasy. I don't think it's a good entry point for sci-fi, but again, don't quote me on that because I don't read sci-fi usually. I just know for myself that if I would start with it without having absolutely any experience with fantasy, for example, and such, I would probably be a bit put off. But nonetheless, I think if you like sciences, you might enjoy this book as well. At least to me, it felt quite cool that I could learn more in physics, you know? And lastly, I think you should be a plot-oriented person because the character development here is not it. And you should be willing to overlook some dubious motivations that drive the plot. Lastly, I do try to summarize any book or my opinion on any book in one sentence. And for this one, I wrote that it's a fascinating idea with mediocre execution. This is how I feel about it. And honestly, I'm really confused if I should continue. Like, I have the books already with me right here, but I don't know. They're also quite bigger. And if I'm gonna be as confused and as like unimpressed, is my time worth it? I don't know. Honestly, in this case, I just want to ask you guys if the books, the second and the third book, get more interesting, better, they improve in the writing style, perhaps, in the character development, in anything. I just need to know more. Thank you. Okay, this one is Lust for today, and that is The Shadow of What Was Lost by James Islington. We are starting the story at a school for kids who have magic, and our main character still doesn't have any magic, which is quite concerning because the trials are coming up. If you do not pass the trial, you face very grave consequences. This is just the beginning of the story. Then it actually unfolds into an epic story with 1,000-year-old civilizations and godlike creatures and different types of magic and adventures, which is honestly quite interesting to follow. First thing I want to mention is the protagonist, Devian. I really feel like I still, after 700 pages of reading, I still do not actually know him, and I have no empathy for him as well. I prefer Wur, for example. I found that character way more interesting. But okay, to be very honest with you, I just despise Devian. To me, he is stubborn, he's easily irritated, he is self-centered. He does not reflect the death of people he grew up with. He does not care about Mistress Alita, who raised him. He couldn't care less about separating from his friends. He never reflects upon that. He does not care about anybody. He only cares about his desires and what he wants people basically to do. And at some point I was questioning if our protagonist actually is the evil guy. He really couldn't care less about other people's boundaries or consent, for example. One of the examples I can give you is when he is presented with memory boxes of a certain character, and he is told that he cannot access all of them, like some of them are locked. And guess what our main character does? He still violently opens them. He does a lot of things that he's told not to do, and then he just says, sorry, I'm sorry. But in reality, he is very intrusive. He's very violent. Like, he doesn't care what you want. He doesn't care if you wanna keep something away just for yourself, or if you have a decision, like, you made a decision on something, he doesn't care. If he wants you to stay, for example, you're gonna stay. There is a scene where Caden wants to leave, not gonna say what exactly, but our dear Devian just tries to force him to stay. And if you have read the book, you know what I mean by forcing someone, in case of Devian, to do something. And honestly, it was so annoying. I really hate this character. I don't want to follow him much. I will actually continue reading the book. So I hope that we would get more information on other characters in the book. For example, I would like to know more about Asha, because I feel like this is the character that I just don't know anything about. I don't know about her background, I don't know her history, I don't even fully know her character yet. I really don't know what she is as a person. Regardless, there's one more thing that I thought was rather weak in this story, and that is that a lot of things just are so convenient, you know? We find a bunch of information just through visions, through dreams. For example, we know what Caden is just thanks to visions and dreams. And honestly, in case of Caden, I would like to understand his past through different clues all around the text, not just through visions and through some dreams or reading the very last chapter of the book, you know? I would like it to be a bit more subtle, maybe? In addition to that, I also noted down that it felt like the main characters uncovered evil plans or destroyed evil quite easily. I just would appreciate a bit more challenge to their path, and I would expect that by overcoming those challenges, they would actually evolve as people, they would actually develop somehow, but I have not really seen that in this book, I have to admit. Lastly, I would also like to mention that I feel like the author did not really show us a real loss or grief, and we have a lot of scenes when that would be important, that would be quite crucial, and I think would be even life-changing in case of real people. Oftentimes we would just read something like, oh, this guy is sad because, I don't know, his best friend, his lover, his whoever died, but we're not really shown loss or grief. And I think in the context, in this epic context of this book, I would appreciate exactly that, to actually show the bit more raw and real emotions, and a bit more depth to the emotional world of the characters. Maybe this critique comes from my expectation that we will be reading a book about a found family, and because of the lack of that bond and emotion and the grieving, I didn't feel like we actually had a found family. Maybe that's the reason or not, I don't know. Tell me how you feel about all the points that I've mentioned. Nonetheless, I told you already that I have decided to continue their series. I want to see how it develops. I know that this is a debut novel by the author, so I mean, again, it doesn't have to be perfect. I'm not expecting it to be perfect, but I would be curious to see if it actually had improved in the second book. And I'm genuinely also interested about the magic. I'm interested about all the civilizations and those godlike creatures that I mentioned. I'm really curious about the lore, the whole setting of the book. I hope that we will find out about the characters a little bit more. And one of the questions also I had is like, where are the parents of these kids? Why no one is looking for Asha, for example? Why Davian never really questions his heritage or like who his parents were, especially given that what he learns about his powers and connections to other people. Like, where are the parents? What I did appreciate about this book is that it's, to a certain degree, discusses otherness, and it shows that power is not just a one defined thing, but it can come in different ways. And I really loved it. And I thought also that one of the themes that James Islington implies here is that instead of fighting, maybe it is more beneficial to work together. Generally speaking, I would actually recommend this book, especially to fantasy readers. And I think you might need to be a reader who is a bit more leaning towards plot-oriented books, who does not care so much about character development or bonding in between characters, because the plot itself, I mean, it is entertaining. It's quite epic. What we are promised in this book is insane. Unlike the very first book I talked about today, this is quite a fast-paced story. A lot of things are happening. We uncover so much information again about different civilizations and magic and so on and so forth. And I hope that we will actually find out more in next books. When I tried to summarize this book in one sentence, I wrote that it's a fast-paced, hard magic, epic fantasy story that has lots of potential, but quite poor character execution. To sum up, here are the 3 books that I have been discussing today, and I have decided to continue with Robb and Hobb, with James Islington. I'm gonna be reading the second book and seeing if I will continue reading any further. And when it comes to the 3-body problem, honestly, I'm still not 100% sure, but I do have the books. In this case, I think I would need a little bit of your opinion on whether this series is worth continuing or if it's better to maybe read the Netflix series, given my feedback on the book. Besides that, actually, I'm thinking of reading a bit more sci-fi to give this genre a chance. And if you have any recommendations for sci-fi, especially anything with social commentary, this is what I really like, and something with perhaps deeper character development, I would really appreciate that, because I'm really in the mood. I'm really in the mood to try something new for myself. Anyway, thank you so much for watching this video. Please leave your comments below. Consider supporting my channel, and I see you in the next video. Thank you. Bye.